On our 12th wedding anniversary, I smiled, held her hand, and paid for the most expensive dinner we'd ever shared. Then I remembered I'd left my wallet in the car. When I quietly walked back toward the restaurant, I heard my wife laughing with another man. "Don't worry," she whispered. "He'll disappear on his own. He always does. Once I get the inheritance, we'll finally be together." My heart didn't break. It froze. For 12 years, I'd loved one woman with everything I had. In less than 12 seconds, I realized our marriage had been nothing but a carefully planned lie. I didn't storm inside. I didn't confront them. I didn't even let them know I'd heard a single word. Instead, I smiled. I walked away. And that very night, I made one silent decision that would destroy every plan they had ever made. They thought I would disappear. I did. But when I returned months later, the woman who betrayed me begged for one thing she could never have again. For 12 years, I believed I had won life's greatest prize. My name is Daniel Carter, a 40-year-old financial consultant from Seattle. I wasn't a millionaire, but I had built a comfortable life through discipline, long hours, and honest work. Everything I earned the hard way. Every promotion, every investment, every success came from years of sacrifice. But none of those achievements ever meant as much to me as Emily, my wife. I met her when I was 28. She was beautiful without trying, confident without arrogance, and possessed the kind of smile that could brighten even the worst day. We met at a charity fundraiser where she accidentally spilled red wine across my white shirt. She was so embarrassed that she insisted on buying me another one. Instead, I asked if she'd have dinner with me. She laughed. "I suppose I owe you that much." That dinner became another. Then another. Within 2 years, we were married. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. She stood beside me through difficult years while I worked 16-hour days building my career. I believed every success I achieved belonged to both of us. Whenever someone praised my accomplishments, I'd always answer the same way. I couldn't have done it without my wife. Emily never had to work after we married. She wanted to start an online business, so I invested nearly $70,000 into her dream. It never really took off, but I never complained. "It doesn't matter," I'd tell her. "As long as you're happy." She drove the newest SUV. She wore designer clothes. She vacationed wherever she wanted. None of it bothered me because seeing her smile made every overtime shift worthwhile. Looking back now, I realize I confused comfort with love. 3 months before our anniversary, something changed. It wasn't dramatic. No screaming arguments. No obvious signs of betrayal. Just distance. Emily suddenly became protective of her phone. If I walked into the room unexpectedly, she'd quickly lock the screen. When I asked who she was texting, she'd smile. "Just my girlfriends." I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Trust isn't built overnight. It's built over years. And ours had 12 years behind it. Or so I thought. She also started spending more time at the gym. Then came girls' weekends. Business networking events. Late-night dinners with old college friends I'd never met. Whenever I questioned it, she'd kiss my cheek. "You work too much, Daniel. I need a little social life." She wasn't wrong. I did work too much. I actually felt guilty. So instead of questioning her, I tried becoming a better husband. I bought flowers every Friday. Cooked dinner whenever I got home early. Canceled meetings to surprise her with weekend trips. Each time, she thanked me with a polite smile. Not the smile she'd once given me. Just a polite one. I convinced myself marriage simply changes after 12 years. The excitement fades. Love becomes routine. That's normal. Right? Then our anniversary approached. 12 years. I wanted it to be unforgettable. I reserved the most exclusive restaurant in the city. A place with panoramic views overlooking Elliott Bay, where reservations had to be booked months in advance. I hired a violinist to play her favorite song. Ordered white roses instead of red because she'd once told me white roses symbolized forever. I even arranged for a custom diamond necklace. Nothing too flashy. Just elegant. Exactly the way she liked. The total bill for the evening exceeded $6,000. Worth every penny. Because I believed I was celebrating the woman who had stood beside me for 12 years. The woman I trusted more than anyone else. The evening finally arrived. Emily walked downstairs wearing a stunning emerald green dress that took my breath away. "You look beautiful," I whispered. She smiled. "Thank you." But something felt different. There wasn't excitement in her eyes. Almost nervousness. "You okay?" I asked. "Of course." She quickly looked at her phone before slipping it into her purse. "I'm just excited." I ignored the uneasy feeling growing in my chest. I opened the car door for her like I always did. During the drive, soft jazz played through the speakers. Normally, she'd sing along. Tonight, she spent most of the journey staring out the window, occasionally checking her phone whenever she thought I wasn't looking. Still, I told myself I was imagining things. After all, this was our anniversary. What could possibly go wrong? I had no idea. Within the next hour, one forgotten wallet, one quiet walk back toward our table, and one conversation I was never meant to hear would completely destroy the life I thought I was living. The valet greeted us with a warm smile as he opened my car door. "Happy anniversary, sir." I smiled back. "Thank you." Emily stepped out of the car, smoothing the emerald green dress that seemed to attract every eye in front of the restaurant. She looked stunning, and for a brief moment, I felt proud that she was my wife. Inside, the restaurant glowed with soft golden lights. Crystal chandeliers reflected across polished marble floors, while a live violinist filled the room with gentle music. Every table overlooked Elliott Bay, where the city lights shimmered across the water. The hostess led us to a private table by the window. "Mr. Carter, welcome. We've prepared everything exactly as requested." Emily looked surprised. "You planned all this?" I smiled. "I've been planning it for 3 months." For the first time that evening, she gave me what looked like a genuine smile. "It's beautiful." Those 2 words were enough to make me forget every strange feeling I'd had over the past few months. Maybe I had worried for nothing. Maybe marriage simply had its ups and downs. Dinner was perfect. The chef personally introduced each course. The violinist played our song, the same melody that had been playing during our first dance at our wedding. Emily thanked everyone politely, but something still felt off. Every few minutes, her phone vibrated inside her purse. She never answered while I was looking. Instead, she'd glance toward the restroom hallway or the restaurant entrance, almost as if she were waiting for someone. I noticed. Then I ignored it. Because sometimes love makes you blind on purpose. Halfway through dinner, I handed her a small velvet box. "Happy anniversary." Emily slowly opened it. Inside rested a delicate white gold necklace with a brilliant diamond pendant. For a second, her eyes widened. "Oh my God. It's beautiful." She stood up and hugged me. Everyone nearby applauded. Someone even raised a glass toward us. Fro. And the outside. We looked like the happiest couple in the restaurant. Only one of us knew it was all an act. As dessert arrived, the waiter placed the leather bill folder beside my plate. "I'll take care of this," I said. I reached inside my jacket. Left pocket. Nothing. Inside pocket. Nothing. A small laugh escaped me. "I can't believe this." Emily looked up. "What happened?" "I left my wallet in the car." she quickly replied. "Don't worry. We can pay later." I shook my head. "It'll only take a minute. I'll be right back." Something flashed across her face. Not concern. Not disappointment. Relief. "So, you're really going?" "2 minutes, max." She nodded a little too quickly. "Okay. I'll wait here." I walked outside and asked the valet for my car. As I searched the center console, I found my wallet exactly where I'd left it. I grabbed it and closed the door. Then I remembered. The anniversary card. The handwritten letter I'd spent nearly 3 hours writing was still inside the glove compartment. I smiled. She'll love this. I picked it up and quietly walked back toward the restaurant. As I approached our table, I stopped. Emily wasn't sitting alone anymore. A tall man in an expensive navy suit had taken the empty chair across from her. His back was facing me. She leaned toward him. Both of them were laughing. Not the polite laugh she'd given me all evening. A real one. Warm. Comfortable. Intimate. I instinctively stepped behind a large decorative pillar just a few feet away. I wasn't trying to spy. I simply didn't understand what I was seeing. Then, I heard her voice. "He actually believed tonight was about us." The man chuckled. "You almost felt bad?" Emily laughed softly. For maybe 5 seconds. My heartbeat slowed. Not faster. Slower. The kind of slow that happens when your brain refuses to believe your ears. The man asked quietly. "So, when are you finally leaving him?" Emily sighed. "I've waited 12 years. I can wait a little longer." 12 years? Waited for what? Then came the sentence that shattered everything. "I told you. Daniel's the kind of man who disappears quietly. He never fights. He never asks questions. He'll sign whatever papers I put in front of him." The man smiled. "And after that?" Emily reached across the table and took his hand. "After that, we'll finally have everything. Our life. Our future. Our money." I felt every word strike like a hammer. But the final sentence destroyed whatever hope I still had. Emily leaned closer and whispered. "If everything goes according to plan, he'll never even realize he was used until it's far too late." I stood frozen behind that pillar. The anniversary card slipped from my fingers and landed silently on the carpet. In that moment, the man I had been for the last 12 years died. And someone else. Someone much quieter. Much colder. Was about to take his place. I don't remember how long I stood behind that marble pillar. 10 seconds. A minute. Maybe longer. Time no longer existed. The laughter coming from my wife and the stranger echoed through my mind like a broken record. Every smile she'd given me. Every kiss. Every "I love you." Suddenly felt fake. My chest hurt, but strangely, I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was empty. I took one slow breath. Then another. Years earlier, my father had given me one piece of advice. Never make a life-changing decision while your emotions are in control. The calmest person always wins. Those words returned to me at the exact moment I needed them. I wiped my face. Straightened my jacket. Picked up the anniversary card from the floor. Then I quietly walked toward the restaurant entrance, making enough noise that they would hear my footsteps before I reached the table. The man immediately stood up. Emily's eyes widened for a split second. Fear. Only for a second. Then it disappeared. She smiled. "Oh. Daniel. I was just talking to an old college friend." The stranger extended his hand confidently. "Ryan Foster." Daniel. The name sounded strange coming from her now. As if it belonged to someone else. I shook Ryan's hand firmly. Nice to meet you. He smiled. You have an incredible wife. I looked directly into his eyes. I'm beginning to realize that. Neither of them noticed the hidden meaning. Ryan glanced at his watch. I should get going. Emily nodded quickly. It was nice seeing you again. Again. Not the first time. Not a coincidence. He walked away without looking back. I watched him leave the restaurant. The expensive watch. The tailored suit. The confidence. He wasn't nervous. Why would he be? He believed I knew nothing. Emily reached across the table. Are you okay? I looked at her hand. The same hand that had just been holding another man's. I'm fine. You seem different. I guess I'm just tired. That wasn't a lie. A part of me had died only minutes earlier. The waiter returned with the bill. I paid every dollar, including a generous tip. Emily smiled. Thank you for tonight. I nodded. You're welcome. Not once during the drive home did either of us mention Ryan. She talked about the violin, the dessert, the necklace. As though nothing unusual had happened. As though I hadn't heard every word. I simply listened. For the first time in 12 years, I was hearing who my wife really was. When we reached home, Emily kissed my cheek. I'm exhausted. I'm going to bed. I smiled. Good night. She disappeared upstairs. I waited exactly 30 seconds. Then I quietly climbed the stairs myself. Our bedroom door was almost closed. A thin strip of light spilled into the hallway. I stopped. Emily sat on the edge of the bed. Her phone was already in her hand. Within seconds, it rang. She answered immediately. I know. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He didn't suspect anything. A pause. Then she laughed. I told you. He's too trusting. I'll convince him to update the estate paperwork soon. After that, there won't be anything standing between us. My hands clenched into fists. Estate paperwork? What paperwork? She continued. Just be patient. He'll disappear quietly. That's what he's always done. She ended the call. I stepped away before she could open the door. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I walked into my home office. I opened my safe. Inside were copies of every financial document we owned. Property deeds. Investment accounts. Insurance policies. Trust agreements. I had always handled our finances. Emily never cared about the details. She simply signed wherever I asked. Tonight, for the first time, I read every document as if I were a stranger. Within an hour, I found something that made my blood run cold. 3 months earlier, Emily had convinced me to add her as the primary beneficiary to nearly every major asset. At the time, she'd smiled and said, "We're husband and wife. If anything ever happens to you, it will make things easier." I never questioned it. Now, those papers looked less like love. And more like preparation. Preparation for a future she had already planned. I leaned back in my chair and stared out the office window into the darkness. No, I whispered to myself. You wanted me to disappear. You were right. A slow smile spread across my face. I will disappear. But first, I'm going to make sure there's nothing left for you to steal. For the first time since the anniversary dinner, I wasn't thinking like a heartbroken husband. I was thinking like a strategist. And Emily had no idea. The game had just begun. The sunrise painted the city in shades of gold. For Emily, it was the beginning of another ordinary day. For me, it was the first day of a completely different life. I walked into the kitchen before she came downstairs. I made her favorite breakfast: French toast, fresh strawberries, coffee with exactly 2 teaspoons of brown sugar. When she entered, she looked surprised. "You cooked?" I smiled warmly. Anniversaries shouldn't end after one night. She kissed my cheek. "You're the sweetest husband." Those words almost made me laugh. If only she knew. The man she thought she controlled no longer existed. After breakfast, I left for the office as usual. But I never went there. Instead, I drove to the law firm that had handled my family's legal affairs for nearly 15 years. The receptionist immediately recognized me. "Good morning, Mr. Carter. Mr. Harrison is expecting you." A few minutes later, I sat across from Michael Harrison, the attorney who had helped me build and protect everything I owned. He looked concerned. "You so dead serious on the phone?" I closed the office door. "What I'm about to tell you stays between us. It always does." I took a deep breath. "I think my wife is planning to leave me." Michael nodded sympathetically. "I also believe she's trying to take everything I've worked for." The room fell silent. Then I told him everything. The anniversary dinner. Ryan. The conversation. The phone call. The estate documents. I expected shock. Instead, Michael quietly folded his hands. "I've seen situations like this before. But there's one difference." "What?" "You heard the truth before it was too late." For the next 3 hours, we reviewed every document I owned. Every investment. Every business account. Every property. Every trust. Michael highlighted several legal steps we could take immediately. "None of this is illegal. You're simply protecting your assets." I nodded. "Do it." That single sentence set everything into motion. Ownership structures were updated. Beneficiary designations were changed. New trusts were created. Separate accounts were opened. Every decision followed the law. Everything was documented. Everything was transparent. But from the outside, nothing appeared different. Emily wouldn't notice a single change. Not yet. As I left the law office, my phone buzzed. It was Emily. "Hey, honey." Her cheerful voice sounded almost convincing. "How's work?" "Busy." "I was thinking." She hesitated. "Maybe this weekend we could meet with the financial advisor." I gripped the steering wheel. "The financial advisor?" "Yeah. I've been thinking we should simplify everything. Joint ownership. Updated beneficiaries. Just in case." The irony was almost unbelievable. She had no idea. She was already too late. I answered casually. "That's a great idea. Let's do it." She sounded relieved. "Perfect. I love you." There was a long pause. Then I forced the words out. "I love you too." The call ended. Those 4 words felt heavier than anything I'd ever said. That evening, I did something I had never imagined doing. I hired a private investigator. His name was Victor Hayes, a former detective with over 25 years of experience. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he asked only one question. "What do you want?" I looked him directly in the eye. "The truth. No assumptions. No guesses. No revenge. Just evidence." Victor nodded. "That's exactly how investigations should begin." He slid a business card across the table. "Give me 72 hours. If your instincts are wrong, I'll tell you. If they're right, you'll know everything. 3 days passed. Emily behaved exactly as she always had. She laughed, cooked dinner, watched television beside me, even suggested we plan a vacation for the fall. It was an Oscar-worthy performance. And I played my role just as well. I smiled, joked, held her hand, pretended nothing had changed. Because sometimes, the most powerful move isn't confrontation. It's patience. On the 4th evening, my phone rang. "Victor, I have your report." His voice was calm, but something about his tone made my stomach tighten. "Can you meet tonight?" "I'm on my way." An hour later, I sat across from him in his office. A thick manila folder rested on the desk. He didn't push it toward me immediately. Instead, he looked at me with the expression of a man who had delivered bad news too many times. "I've investigated a lot of cheating spouses," he said quietly. "But this..." He paused. "This is bigger than an affair." My heartbeat slowed. Victor finally slid the folder across the desk. "Open it." Inside were photographs. Emily, Ryan, holding hands, kissing, entering a luxury apartment together, vacationing together. The dates beneath the photographs stretched back. Not 6 months. Not 1 year. Almost 4 years. I stared at the final photograph. It showed Emily embracing Ryan outside a private bank. Victor spoke again. "I also discovered something else. They've been meeting with a financial consultant. Repeatedly. They've discussed inheritances." He took a slow breath. "And they've mentioned life insurance." The room became completely silent. Then Victor placed one final envelope on top of the folder. "You need to prepare yourself before opening this one." I looked at him. "Why?" His answer sent a chill through my entire body. "Because if what's inside is true, this was never just about divorce." For nearly a full minute, I couldn't bring myself to open the second envelope. My hands, usually steady enough to sign million-dollar contracts without hesitation, trembled for the first time in years. Victor didn't rush me. He simply sat in silence. Finally, I slid a finger beneath the seal. Inside were photocopies of emails, insurance records, and transcripts from recorded conversations obtained legally during the investigation. The first page made my stomach tighten. It showed that, 8 months earlier, Emily had persuaded me to increase my life insurance coverage from $2 million to $10 million. At the time, she'd smiled and said, "You're traveling more for work now. I just want to know we'll be protected if anything ever happens." I remembered kissing her forehead and thanking her for caring. Now I realized. She wasn't protecting our future. She was calculating its price. I turned to the next page. It contained a transcript from a conversation between Emily and Ryan at a private cafe. Ryan asked, "How much would she get?" Emily answered without hesitation. "Almost everything. The insurance alone changes our lives." Ryan laughed. "And Daniel?" Emily stirred her coffee before replying. "Daniel trusts me more than he trusts himself." There was another pause. Then Ryan said something that made the room feel colder. "Let's hope nothing unexpected ruins the plan." Victor quietly closed the folder. "I couldn't prove criminal intent. But I can tell you this. They weren't planning a happy divorce. They were planning a future without you." I stared out the office window. Seattle's streets bustled below as though nothing had changed. Thousands of people hurried to work. Couples held hands. Children laughed. The world moved forward. Mine had stopped. Victor finally broke the silence. "What are you going to do?" I thought for several seconds. Then I answered. Nothing. He frowned. Nothing? Not yet. I want them to believe everything is going exactly as they planned. Victor slowly smiled. That's smarter than confronting them. The following morning, I became the perfect husband again. I kissed Emily goodbye before work. I brought her flowers that evening. I even suggested we book the beach vacation she'd mentioned. She looked happier than she had in months. Because she believed she was winning. She had no idea. Every smile I gave her bought me more time. A week later, Emily approached me after dinner. Daniel. I've been thinking. I looked up from my laptop. About what? You've worked so hard all these years. You deserve a break. I smiled. I agree. She walked behind my chair and gently placed her hands on my shoulders. What if we took a weekend trip? Just the two of us. Somewhere quiet. A cabin. A mountain resort. Anywhere. I looked into her eyes. For 12 years, I would have followed those eyes anywhere. Now, I saw only calculation behind them. Still, I smiled. That sounds perfect. The excitement on her face lasted only a second before she hit it. When should we go? Whenever you want. She wrapped her arms around me. You've always been so easy to love. I almost asked. Easy to love, or easy to manipulate? Instead, I hugged her back. The next afternoon, my lawyer called. Everything is complete. No assets remain vulnerable. If a divorce happens tomorrow, she won't receive what she expects. I thanked him and ended the call. Minutes later, Victor called. I have another update. What is it? I followed Ryan this morning. And? He's meeting someone. Who? Victor hesitated. I don't know yet. But it wasn't Emily. That evening, Victor sent me several photographs. Ryan sat inside a luxury hotel lounge. Across from him was another woman. They weren't discussing business. They were holding hands. Kissing. Laughing. Just as he had with Emily. I stared at the photographs in disbelief. Ryan wasn't loyal to Emily either. He was deceiving the woman who believed they were building a future together. A bitter smile crossed my face. Betrayal was consuming itself. Neither of them realized they were being played. The following night, Emily poured 2 glasses of wine. She handed one to me. To new beginnings, she said. I raised my glass. To the truth. She smiled, assuming I meant our future together. She couldn't have been more wrong. As our glasses touched, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Victor. Only 6 words. You need to leave. Right now. My heart skipped a beat. I excused myself, walked into the hallway, and called him immediately. His voice was urgent. Daniel. I just received security footage. What footage? There wasn't just a plan to take your money. He paused. Then said the words that made every instinct inside me come alive. Someone tampered with your car yesterday. Victor's words echoed in my ears. Someone tampered with your car yesterday. For a moment, the world around me disappeared. I looked through the living room doorway. Emily sat on the couch, sipping her wine, scrolling casually through her phone. She looked calm. Too calm. If Victor was right, then this was no longer about betrayal. It was about survival. Can you prove it? I whispered into the phone. Victor answered immediately. I pulled security footage from the parking garage at your office. It clearly shows Ryan entering the restricted employee parking area. He stayed near your car for almost 12 minutes. 12 minutes? Yes. And he wasn't alone. My stomach tightened. Who was with him? Victor hesitated. Emily. I closed my eyes. There was no room left for doubt. I'm coming to your office. No. Victor stopped me. Don't drive. I've already contacted a trusted mechanic. He picked up your vehicle 20 minutes ago. What did he find? There was a long silence. Finally. He found that your brake line had been partially cut. I couldn't breathe. Not completely cut. Just enough. Enough for the brakes to fail. After driving several miles. Enough to look like a tragic accident. Enough to leave no obvious suspect. I slowly walked back into the living room. Emily smiled. Everything okay? I forced myself to smile. Yeah. Just work. She stood up and wrapped her arms around me. I'm so glad we're spending more time together again. I hugged her back. The same woman who was holding me had almost become my killer. Yet her heartbeat never changed. She felt no guilt. No fear. Nothing. The next morning, before sunrise, Michael, Victor, and I met with detectives from the Major Crimes Unit. I handed them every document. Every photograph. Every recording. Every timeline. The detectives listened carefully. One of them finally spoke. You did the right thing by coming before confronting them. Another detective nodded. If the brake inspection confirms sabotage, this becomes attempted murder. 3 days later, the forensic report arrived. The brake line had been deliberately damaged using a precision cutting tool. It wasn't wear. It wasn't an accident. Someone had done it intentionally. The investigation moved quickly. Police obtained warrants. Phone records. Bank records. Security footage. Financial transfers. The truth unfolded piece by piece. Emily and Ryan had exchanged hundreds of messages discussing insurance money, inheritances, and a fresh start. One message froze everyone in the room. Ryan had written, "One accident, and everything becomes ours." Emily replied, "Just make sure no one ever suspects us." 2 weeks later. I wasn't the one who confronted them. The police did. Emily was sitting in our kitchen drinking coffee when detectives knocked on the front door. She opened it with a smile. The smile disappeared the moment they introduced themselves. Ryan was arrested the same morning at his downtown apartment. Neither of them expected it. Neither of them had prepared for the evidence. And neither of them realized. The man they thought was too trusting had quietly protected himself. Months later, the trial became national news. The prosecution presented security footage, forensic reports, financial records, and dozens of messages between Emily and Ryan. Their own words destroyed them. The jury didn't deliberate for long. Ryan was convicted of attempted murder, conspiracy, and fraud. Emily was convicted of conspiracy, insurance fraud, and attempted murder. Both received lengthy prison sentences. A year passed. I sold the house that had never truly been a home. I started over in another city. For the first time in years, I slept peacefully. One afternoon, I received a letter from prison. The handwriting on the envelope was instantly familiar. Emily. Inside was only one page. Daniel. Every day I think about the life we could have had. Ryan betrayed me too. I lost everything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But if there's even a small part of you that remembers who we once were, please write back. I folded the letter. Walked to the fireplace. And without reading it again, I dropped it into the flames. Some stories deserve another chapter. This one didn't. As I watched the paper turn to ash, I whispered the only words she would never hear. You thought I would disappear quietly. Instead, your lies disappeared first. The end.